Hey folks, Malforian here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Crusader Kings 3, and it's just going to be a little discussion video, nothing too crazy, but this is all going to be about the trade system and how we could get trade routes and things like that into the game in the future. And this was all originally sparked in my mind from this one line from Dev Diary 119, Tours and Travel. It was kind of a throwaway line. I know you're all eager for things like trade routes, and so are we. They won't be coming in this expansion, but it is something we have an eye on in the future. At the time, I thought, well, that's a bit weird. I do cover these dev diaries on the channel. I think I even mentioned it in that video. Like, it's a bit weird, this line's just thrown in here. Nothing else in this dev diary is about trade, but it did get me thinking. And then as they've gone through the dev diaries, there's been some other screenshots and things like that where I've thought, oh, this could be the bones of how a trade system could work in the game to make it better than the CK2 version. As they've said with a lot of things, like, if there's a mechanic in CK3 that was in CK2, they didn't want to just bring that mechanic over and it work exactly the same way. They wanted to do a better version of it. And I think we've seen so far that has generally been the case. And I think for trade, they'll definitely go that extra mile because I think a lot of people enjoyed trade, enjoyed playing Merchant Republics and things like that. And I think they'd want to make it really, really good. So we're just going to go over today just a couple of the screenshots. And like I say, like how I think it could work. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If any of you have feedback or like additional ideas of how it could work, or just a totally different way you think it could work from what we know so far, do let me know, and I might make a follow-up video where we discuss those as well, because I'm sure some of you will have better ideas than this. But this is initially what I thought, and I thought it'd make a cool video for today. So yeah, the first one we're going to look at is this, which is the Byzantine Majesty's Tour screenshot. I think this was from the same dev diary, and this just shows like an internal, obviously, tour. But imagine it's something else. Imagine you're playing the game, maybe your steward comes up to you and says, hey, my liege, we've got a delegation here from Rome. They've come to see if we, have any trade opportunities or something like that. And, they've suggested we do this, or between us, we've suggested this to you. And it would show a route. It would show a route up here through the Balkans, around the top, near the Alps, and then down into Rome itself. And it would tell you, this is how long it's going to take. I think it will potentially use something like the travel system. I think that hint earlier kind of, hints towards that is how it might work. So it'd show you a route, how long it took, how much money it costs, and potentially how much money you would make from it. And it would be a default route. This is the route. This is how long it's going to take. And then you just say yes or no. And I think if you're not playing a Merchant Republic, I think some of what we're going to talk about today would be specific to Merchant Republics to make them play different to normal empires. I think how they implement them in CK3, they'll obviously want to split them out so they play quite different to normal kingdoms and things like that, because I think they would have just been in the game originally if they were just going to be very similar with a couple of different changes. I think they just would have been in the game already. So yeah, if you're playing as a normal empire, they come up, they say that, and you just go like yes or no, just have that trade route, or you have somebody come in and say, I'm from India, I'm doing a trade route, I'm basically doing the Silk Road through to Western Europe, and we want to come through your land. Here's a percentage of our money that we make from traveling through your empire. Will you accept our trade and siphon off like 2% or something like that? Something small, but just so you have interactions from trade routes coming through your empire, and that is how they work. And that'd be like the super basics if you're just playing like a normal kingdom. I don't think they'll do any crazy amount of trade stuff if you're not a Merchant Republic. I think they'd want Merchant Republics to be the focus of doing trade stuff. I don't think they'd want kingdoms to get bogged down with trade stuff. I think we just get those one-off things. Maybe your steward comes up to you, if you have a gold mine, maybe every so often he comes up and says, hey, we've got an excess of gold, if you could ever have such a thing. I've heard that Paris is interested in stockpiling gold for some jewelry or something. Should we do this trade route? It'd show you just the trade route. Do you want to accept it, yes or no? These are the risks, these are the rewards, and you just say yes or no, and then it kind of spawns that trade route, and you follow it along. Very much like the tour system, you would follow it on the map, and you get events. Oh, they've been ambushed by bandits, they've gone via ship, their ship's had an incident at sea, there's a Leviathan there, it's going to kill them all. Oh no, you've got a really good knight on board and he kills it, or something like that, to kind of spruce it up each time and make it a little bit different. And I think that would be the basics. We're not going to go into too much detail in this video. Like I say, this is probably totally wrong, but I just thought that would be like a cool basic way for it to work. And then what I thought is if you play as Merchant Republics, you would get an option like this. This is the customized route for tours and kind of traveling around the game. And I was thinking if you are a Merchant Republic, maybe you would have something like this. Maybe you have the same thing, but instead you go to Rome and you say, hey, I want to set a trade route between us and Rome. I'm not 100% sure how the trade value is going to be organized. I imagine if you have like silver mines, gold mines, or something like that, that's obvious examples of things you would trade. But I imagine there's going to be something, maybe it's just going to be linked to development. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, you go to Rome, you send your steward, or you send a specific trade delegation, and you say, hey, the Pope or whoever, we want to set up a trade route with you, and we've got these ideas. Maybe one of them is the same route through the Balkans, up and round, and you come into Rome. It's slow. It costs this much. It's not that expensive. Well, it's expensive. It's the Middle Ages. It's expensive, but it's not crazy expensive. But it's slow, and you can't take much. Or you say, like, hey, we could come through here. We could come through the Aegean Sea, up through the Mediterranean. We come via ship. We've got some really good shipyards. You've got really good shipyards. Let's do a ship trade route. It's going to be this much faster. It's going to have maybe more stuff, maybe safer. There'll be sea events that could cause issues, but, relatively safe. But then there could be some piracy or something like that. And they could obviously come along and steal your ships and things like that. But I think you could have two different routes, the land version, the sea version. And then using the custom editor like this, you could even specialize it even further. You're going over land. Well, this county over here, Abensberg, we're going to use as an example. I know it's not on the route, but let's just say, because it's on the screen, Abensberg here, well, that's got a marketplace in there. So we'll do it via there. We'll get some events around marketplaces. Maybe we do some trading, get some more value. Maybe we make a mistake and we lose value. We get swindled out of some of our jewelry or something that we're trying to trade, and we lose money on the route. And then you carry on down here, and again, you stop somewhere else. Maybe there is like a way station here or something that maybe you've built or they've built to try attract trade and go through there, and then it speeds up your routes. You would have something similar to this. It will obviously look different to this because they won't want it to look exactly the same as the travel system, I don't think. But as you can see here, this is how the travel system works, speed and safety. You could see that in trade. Oh, it's going to be this fast if you go via these way stations that either you build or the people there build. Maybe they speed up the route, but you have to give a percentage of your profits again to whoever owns it. If you own it, maybe it's less, but you pay that upfront cost, and maybe it boosts development in that county. So the person who owns that county is getting a bonus from you, but you're paying all the cost. But because you're putting in their land, they do get something from that, because otherwise it'd be kind of unfair, I guess. And then obviously safety, maybe you could customize this. As you can see here, it kind of works already. Caravan Master, I think they call it something else, but it kind of works anyway. If you have experienced ones, maybe they know safer routes. Maybe they have some additional knights that you can hire, or just something to make it safer, the route. Maybe you can get seasoned scouts, these travel options. The example here shows hire mountaineers to make it faster through mountains, obviously. Maybe a similar thing, hire mountaineers, maybe hire scouts. Like just different things you can customize. It costs you a little bit more, but maybe it's faster, maybe it's safer. Maybe the marketplaces that you go through are more likely to give you positive results, some kind of, haggler kind of character that you can have in there that will make more money the further you go through these different marketplaces areas, or something like that. And then, like I say, something like way stations, something where you can like speed up the routes, or maybe if you're going via sea, you would have more minor ports that you stopped at, and the same thing, you're getting supplies. Maybe that helps you go faster. You can trade, obviously, in those minor ports, again, plus or negative events. And I think a lot of this stuff would be tied into Merchant Republics to make them really stand out. Yeah, I think this would be a cool way of doing it. You customize these routes. Maybe you're in India and you want to recreate the Silk Road, or the Silk Road's already in there, maybe, when you start. And it's all about trying to get through that kind of funnel of trade and trying to branch out into other areas and just kind of adding that different element into the game. And I think this would be a cool way of doing it. And then the last thing here, we've kind of covered it already a little bit, is they did announce, and I think it was Dev Diary 120, systemic refinements about how buildings are going to change in the game and how they're kind of rebalancing the economy a little bit, kind of making it a little bit different to how it works now. You could invest into these buildings, especially if you're a Merchant Republic. You build a port, and that aids you to do trade. Maybe if you're Venice, you go into Iberia, you go to Galicia and say like, hey, we want to do a trade route, up along the coastline of the Atlantic. We can see you haven't got that many good ports here. Maybe we'll invest in a port for you. You get the bonus of additional development growth, maybe some tax or holding taxes improvements, or supplies. Well, especially supplies I think would work thematically. But we get like a trade node that we can then use to branch out into, England, Scandinavia, and things like that. I think that would be pretty cool, especially, like I say, if you're playing that Merchant Republic, to make the gameplay stand out from just playing as a normal empire or kingdom, make it a little bit more interesting. You're doing something else. Now, I will say for my sins, I never played a Merchant Republic in CK2, so I'm not 100% sure how they worked in that game. I played a lot of CK2, I just never played as a Merchant Republic. It never really interested me as a way to play it, so I'm not sure if some of this is roughly how it worked. I know you couldn't customize routes or anything, so I think that is like a new way it would work, but I think like building the ports is how it worked in there. Someone will have to let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that is basically it, guys. Like I say, just a really quick video, just covering some of the ideas I had in my mind, just a bit of a rambling one if I'm honest. So if you've enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you do have ideas or feedback or some way that you think it might work tied to this, or how you think they will do like the value of trade. Now, I'm not sure they just leave it as like development. I just don't see them just saying like, oh, if you have development 20, it's worth this much trade. It could be how it works, but I'd be surprised if they keep it like that. And I'd be very surprised if they bring like a trade system. If you ever played Imperator Rome, that actually had a really cool trade system where you did have like fish, iron, different things like that. Then you set up trade routes between specific countries and yourself. And that was a really cool way for that to work. I don't think they bring it in. For some reason, I just don't think it works like that in Crusader Kings. I'd be very surprised if they changed it that way, but I'm not 100% sure what we will get for like trade value. It might just be development. Anyway, let me know what you think down below if that's how you think it would work. And yeah, we'll have a chat about it. And then obviously, I imagine next year we might get Merchant Republic's DLC. This year we've got Tours and Tournaments, we've got the Persia DLC, and we've got the Events Child DLC thing. And I think next year, if they keep the same structure, I think we will get like an Empire DLC, which will be the Byzantine rework, it'll be HRE, and then some kind of Empire mechanics that make them stand out differently from other kingdom types and things like that. So maybe Mongols and other places like that will get some kind of content for them to kind of spice them up a little bit, make them stand out a little bit more from just being like, oh, you're just a better kingdom and it doesn't really play any different. And maybe they'll do some kind of army rework in there as well. But I do think Trade and Merchant Republics, I think it will be a flavor pack. That makes me think it will be the next flavor pack. I don't think it's big enough for a full expansion, but it could be. I'm not too sure. But I think it fits a flavor pack quite well because it's going to be content that not everyone plays. So I think it fits a flavor pack structure better. You'd get Merchant Republics, some kind of Venice rework probably, and then, like I say, in the free patch you would just get the basic trade routes. You know, somebody comes to you, your steward or someone, and says, do you want to do this one-off trade route? And you go, yes. Or an outside Merchant Republic would come to you and say, we want to do this trade route to you or through your lands, here's what will happen for you, and you go yes or no. But then if you are playing as a Merchant Republic, you get to customize the routes, you get to choose different things, you have way more options, and then you can invest in buildings in other people's lands if they agree to it. So, you know, you can put those ports somewhere else, you can put those way stations I talked about earlier, or just ideas like that. I think that's roughly how it might work. Like I say, let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video and it's your first time here, I cover Crusader Kings, I do all the dev diary coverage. There'll be a link to it at the end of the video. But I also do narrative campaigns, achievement runs, and I cover other historical titles on the channel as well. So hit subscribe, you'll get all that in the future. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.